ClassicGameRoom.com.
Ratchet, Channel 2 News.
Did you see that?
Yes, I hope that poor woman is all right.
She's fine, I think.
Welcome to Classic Game Room, broadcasting from the Intergalactic Space Arcade, where I'm bringing you the first game in the excellent Ratchet and Clank series. This is Ratchet and Clank, being played off of the HD Collection. Unless you've been living under a rock, you've probably heard of Ratchet and Clank, and I'm not judging you if you live under a rock. I'm sure there's some very nice under rock dwellings. Not likely, but you know, and you probably should move. Anyway, my point is, you've heard of it. Have you played Ratchet and Clank? Because it's never too late. This game is eternally fun. Whether you're living in 2002 or fighting the robots in 2084, Ratchet and Clank should be in your game library.
Is that all you can think about? Drek this and Drek that? I got my own problems.
Ratchet and Clank is a fun series of games with a lot of personality. It reminds me of Futurama meets Star Wars. Ratchet, who is a Lombax, seems a lot like Han Solo, while Clank fills the C-3PO role.
Friendly, aren't you?
To you, yes. To him, no.
They work well together with some clever back-and-forth banter as they fight Supreme Executive Counselor Drek, who's destroying a bunch of friendly planets or something to build a new one after he's ruined his own.
As many of you know, our home planet is no longer habitable.
This is a teen-rated action game, which I think is well-suited for both kids and adults. It's an action-fighting game with a heavy emphasis on futuristic wild weaponry, but it's not too violent. Unless you consider vacuuming up enemies and then shooting them at other enemies to be graphic, but, you know, in that case, Dig Dug isn't appropriate either. And then don't even get me started on Mario and the whole mushrooms thing. As you see, this can probably be considered a 3D action platformer, similar to games like Spyro the Dragon or Skylanders, with a lot of personality, great gameplay, and when you get into it, it's quite challenging. You bounce around the universe completing various objectives and collecting gadgets and weaponry along the way that then enable you to reach different parts of levels you may have previously visited. And it's a pretty sizable game. Originally released on the PlayStation 2 from Insomniac, known for, well, the Ratchet and Clank series, and of course Resistance. Now, I was borrowing the second two games in the series from a friend of mine on PlayStation 2, and then we received the HD Collection from our friend Joseph in New Smyrna, Florida. So a huge Classic Game Room, Xevious, Zaxxon, and Vectrex thank you to Joseph. While I don't have the PS2 version to compare this to, it looks amazing in HD. In fact, I love the HD Collection. This is the way to go if you've never played these games before. Because it's got a flamethrower, and you've really got to appreciate it with as much resolution as possible, and these sounds are good too.
Up with a thruster pack. Ooh.
In addition to running around, smashing things with your wrench or blowing them up with lasers, you'll also fly a spaceship and even hoverboard. But veterans of the Ratchet and Clank series will notice that you don't upgrade your weapons or your health in the same way that you do in later games, which I think makes this one a little tougher. If you screw up, which is pretty easy to do, especially later in the game, then you've got to replay the level. But you're always collecting nuts and bolts or credits or whatever along the way that you can spend on new weaponry and ammo. Like the Glove of Doom or the Rip Ya a New One. Ratchet and Clank is the kind of game that puts a smile on your face from start to finish. It's got a lot of things to do, great characters, and loads of personality. Did I mention it has a flamethrower? If it had any problems, which it really doesn't, the flamethrower would absolve those problems. Ratchet and Clank 1 sets the tone for the rest of the series, which for the most part follows this pretty closely. Some of the games like Ratchet and Clank All for One, well, what were they thinking on that one? You'll see my review later. Fans have hooked us up with pretty much every game in the series, and All for One is just free. So there'll be lots more Ratchet and Clank fun to come on Classic Game Room, and I think fans of the series can hope for new games as well. Someday, maybe. Hopefully better than All for One. So a big thanks to Joseph from Florida. I think this is a great game. It's lots of fun. It's fun to play with your kids. It's cool, and it sets the stage for the rest of them. Ratchet and Clank for the PlayStation 2, being played here off of the HD Collection on the PlayStation 3, is pretty much a must-have game. Joe says that someday he wants to make a game where the Death Star blows up Naboo. So Joe, we're all with you on that.
I am unsure about your logic.
You think too much. Come on, let's go.